Welcome once again, everybody, to DAZN MMA. Sean O'Connell, Dan Hardy, happy to be with you. Lots to talk about in this lovely sport of mixed martial arts, combat sports in general. And the lines get blurrier and blurrier between boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, MMA, right? We just saw UFC 285, the run-up, the behind-the-scenes stuff. Gervonta Tank Davis hanging out at the UFC Performance Institute, talking to Jon Jones. This is all pre-fight stuff, right? And Jon Jones was asked about what do you think Tank would be as a mixed martial artist? Of course, when you're talking about a champion in another sport, you're going to be complimentary of that skill set in particular. But Bones Jones said he could be a force in the sport of mixed martial arts. Dan Hardy, we have seen plenty of boxers, even prolific ones, crossover into mixed martial arts. In the PFL, we've had Claressa Shields exploring mixed martial arts after multiple championships in the boxing world, Olympic championships, world championships, multiple weight classes. So it begs the question, would Gervonta Davis be a factor in the sport of mixed martial arts?
You know, I certainly think he has all the capability, yes. You know, he's a fantastic athlete. He's very quick off the mark. He's got very heavy hands. He's clearly a fighter as well. He's got a fighting spirit. And you know, you look at the division that he's in. I mean, what is he, 135, 140? You're looking around kind of Cody Garbrandt's division. Like, I mean, that would be an absolute banger. I really feel like he would be able to take to it, you know, really well. Of course, it all depends on how much he would invest himself in it. You know, you look at like the likes of Claressa Shield and Holly Holm, you know, people that have really invested themselves into the sport of MMA and have taken it, you know, really far. But then, of course, you know, James Toney didn't quite give it the same kind of dedication. It didn't work out well for him. And, you know, it all depends really how much he would invest himself in it. But absolutely, he's got the capability. And his range management, his speed, he's so quick off the mark. He'd be able to connect that gazelle hook to most people in the bantamweight division and put them out.
I love the idea of it, right? The investment of time for Gervonta has to coincide with the investment financially from the UFC, the PFL, Bellator, whatever mixed martial arts organization is willing to entice him enough to give those services. And that's where the crossover potential really suffers when we're talking about male professional boxers, right? Holly Holm came over, Claressa Shields came over, Amanda Serrano came over. A lot of people on the women's side of boxing are willing to do this because the paydays just aren't there in the boxing world. The notoriety is just not there in the boxing world for these individuals. It's simply not true for men, right? And that's unfortunate. That's a place where we've talked about this. We've had these conversations before in the sport of mixed martial arts. It's the most difficult sport in the world. The paydays need to reflect that for championship level athletes, right? So for Tank Davis, who's making an insane amount of money as a boxing champion right now, to do something more difficult, more dangerous, harder for him to grasp, right? Where he has to introduce a whole new training regimen. He's got to get wrestlers in there. He's got to learn to sprawl. He's got to learn at least competent jiu-jitsu defense. What's going to motivate somebody like that besides a challenge? Yeah, he's the kind of guy who probably embraces a challenge. But what's going to motivate him? Money. The kind of money that MMA is still not offering right now. Not because it's incapable of offering it, but because the industry standard is still too low. Right? If you want to see that crossover fight, pay for it. And I think we'll get it. Maybe not with Tank, right? Maybe with Canelo, maybe with whoever. But that's the where this sport was built, Dan Hardy. That's why it was invented in the first place. I want to see it.
Absolutely. Maybe we can go back to the one boxing glove kind of fight. You remember the old early UFC days?
Just let him keep one,
right? Just let him keep one boxing glove on his left hand. No, I agree with you, absolutely. You know, what we're hoping for at the moment in mixed martial arts is that the athlete that would become Gervonta Davis takes a liking for mixed martial arts when they're 14 or 15 years old and decide to take that route in spite of the fact that the money's probably not going to be quite as good. And you know, and that is a disappointing thing because we do want to start enticing some of the, you know, the other athletes over from other sports because it, you know, it brings interest and notoriety. And I feel like, you know, fighters like Gervonta Davis, I feel like he has the ability to learn very quickly and cross over. I've been asked this question 100 times as well. Mike Tyson back in the day, he would have been an absolute beast crossing over to mixed martial arts. You know, they've got to want the challenge, and I don't know whether the money is the money's not there in mixed martial arts, so the challenge has to be really motivating, and I don't think it's quite there. You know, if I can stick to boxing and make loads of money and be really good at what I'm doing, or have to learn another, I don't know, I mean, what percentage of boxing is MMA? I often have this conversation with myself because it's not a quarter of MMA, is it? There's so much more to the grappling and the wrestling. So you've got to think boxing maybe is an eighth of MMA. You've got to learn 7/8 of a new sport and then put your reputation on the line. At the moment, it's not very enticing at all, but we can daydream for sure.
Yeah, I've actually never heard it put like that, but you're right. It's the equivalent of if you're a musician, right? You're the greatest guitarist in the world, right? Do you want to go where you to a place now professionally where you also have to learn how to play the drums and the piano and the harpsichord and the harmonica, and you got to learn how to sing, or do you just want to be the best guitarist in the world? That's where boxers are right now, right? They're really excellent at that single component of the sport of mixed martial arts. And quite honestly, great athletes usually can pick up other athletic endeavors and have a bunch of success in it. But as you and I know well, it takes time to develop those skills, and time is money. So if we
Yeah.
want to see these fights in the sport of mixed martial arts or even hybrid rules, pay to make it happen.